does it? Oh, good. I can't hear. Welcome, everybody, to our first face-to-face person meeting since March. Wow. It's good to see everybody. Hi. It's nice to see that it's all set up nicely and distanced. And if anybody feels more comfortable wearing their masks, please do so. We're spaced far enough apart that I'm feeling okay with it right now. If anybody wants to wear the mask, please go ahead. So on that, we will call this meeting to order. Agenda, we are in policy, by the way, sorry. Agenda review. Has everybody reviewed the agenda? And all is good? Thank you. Minutes review. The minutes from the September 8th, 2020 meeting. Everybody had a chance to read them and they're good. And we have Valerie here. She is doing both Zoom and teleconference, so she's waving at everybody, but she's looking at me because she, hey, she's privileged.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that my shingles started flaring up again, and because we're getting different reports from our doctors here, one is saying that it's not, nobody can get it unless they can only get chicken pox from shingles and not shingles from shingles, and Nancy's doctor says otherwise, so just to be on the safe side, I'll be doing it this month, this May, and hopefully see you guys in November.
Thank you, Bill. So, policy development, 4.1, review of policy 1.10, Trustee Code of Ethics, policy 1.100, Trustee Code of Conduct, and policy 1.50, role of the trustee. So in September, the policy committee reviewed the draft trustee policies. It was requested district management compile the changes and identify their items, where items are addressed in current policies or other resources. And we have that on page 5. Thank you. Page 5. So did everybody have a chance to look at that? Yes, Valerie?
The only thing that I could see, and I don't know if it needs to be both the oath of office and the trustee role and responsibilities, is the first bullet should be carrying all responsibilities as listed in the School Act. I know we have it down below, but I think if I understand correctly, this is listing off the things that aren't in the School Act and other policies that we have in office. So I just want that to be listed somewhere. One of those would be the oath of office and the trustee.
Okay. Thank you. Can you repeat that, Val?
It is probably the very first point should be carrying all the responsibilities as listed in the School Act. I saw one part that referred to developing policy, and that's not the only thing we do. We also carry out the responsibilities in the School Act as well.
I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. Is everybody okay with that, Vicky? Go ahead.
We have a couple highlighted on the trustee oath of office. First of all, thank you for staff for arranging it the way you did. It was easy to follow and further gets us to, I think, where we're going. Donna got us a good start. Now the staff have given us the second boost, so thank you. So the 4th bullet or line says to attend all board meetings. I'm just wondering, do we want to say all board meetings? Of course, that's the best. I mean, we should try to do that. However, doesn't our bylaw state that after 3 missed meetings, a trustee could cease to not be a trustee or something? So I'm not sure if we want to say all board meetings, because you're making an oath to attend all board meetings. I'm just wondering whether we should say regularly attend or something like that, or refer to bylaw such and such.
I personally like the to attend all, just to reinforce that it is that important. There is a caveat in there that if you do have to miss, to notify the chairs in advance. So I think, I don't know, Donna?
The intention to attend all board meetings means that it's more authoritative that boards do at the utmost make the attempt to attend. And then that way it doesn't say, oh, well, I can skip 3 meetings and it'll be okay.
Exactly.
Right? So this stipulates that and makes it more authoritative in that line, so that if there is an emergency, we have that policy protocol in our bylaws that says that if it's an emergency, you can call in and do that. Or if you miss it and then you call in afterwards, as long as it's reported out that there is a situation that makes the trustee not able to attend in person. But then we also have the ability now with the COVID to call in as well too, even before that, right? So even if you have to go somewhere, you can still line up to get in there somehow. So it gives you that duty too.
Yeah, okay, I just, as long as everybody's okay with
Okay.
all.
And Val, do you want to answer that? Are you answering to Vicky?
Yes, to Vicky, and I actually do like her wording there, to attend all board meetings and if not able to refer to bylaw number or whatever. Because, yeah, we don't want people to think that, okay, I missed a meeting in the future. We know, our group knows if we missed 3 meetings that we should be gone. But in the future, when we get new trustees, they might not know that and think that because they missed a meeting that, they're gone and they weren't able to get a hold of anybody. So I think that we should have that bylaw referred to in that instance.
Okay, I'm good with that. Orra, did you want to answer to Vicky too?
Might make more sense if the language is similar to the rest of the language in the paragraphs above. So if it said a trustee shall endeavor to attend all board meetings, everything else is a trustee, a trustee, a trustee. So if that language could look like a trustee shall endeavor to attend, that would make it more cohesive. And then the other piece that we're talking about the missing of the 3 meetings, where is that? I know I've seen it, but I'm not sure. We're talking about it as a bylaw.
It's in one of the procedural bylaws, and I'm not quite sure exactly the number on it, sorry. Don't know it offhand. Linda will find it. Thank you.
Thanks.
And when Linda gets back with it, then we'll go back to that. Vicky, you had something?
One more thing, I was looking at the bylaws now, I'm back. The next line says the trustee will keep informed of current developments in education at the local, provincial, and national levels. I just wanted to bring it up that this is, I wonder if it's redundant because it's also included in the next policy roles and responsibilities. Do we need to say it twice? It seems like it might not belong in the oath of office and better belongs in the roles and responsibilities. I'll just throw that out there. And that's all I have.
Carmen?
Okay, so just in kind of response to Val's request to have a mention of the School Act, I would just like to point out to bullet number 4, where it says take individual responsibility to contribute actively to all aspects of the board's role according to legislation, bylaws, and policies. So that really does cover off the School Act because that is the legislation piece of that. Bullet 4 in the new bullet numbering system. And so just in addition to those mentions in bullet number 4, I would add the BC Human Rights Code. And also a suggestion that we have a statement at the top that says something about reconciliation. So I kind of came up with one, which is
Okay, can I just interrupt for one second? You are on the trustee oath of office, correct? Policy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, number 3, like the new number 3, or number 4, sorry. It's at the bottom of page 6 of 12. So it would say, I'll go back to this again. Take individual responsibility to contribute actively to all aspects of the board's role according to legislation, bylaws, and policies. So I was just mentioning that maybe, like, I'm not opposed to Val's suggestion, but maybe we already have it in here. And then the other part is to add to this bullet and the BC Human Rights Code.
Okay, you had.
And then I had another thought, and that's all it is. A trustee, so it would be at the top section, will uphold a spirit of reconciliation and respect in all that I do.
Thank you.
Then, do you want me to keep going? Okay. Bullet number 2, new number 2. This is like a little housekeeping thing. This oath of office will bind me. Take the that out. I'm not sure we need that. The word that is out. That doesn't change the thinking. Number 3, the new number 3. I just found it a little bit kind of wordy, so I'm just suggesting simplification, where it says that public honesty, confidence,
Announcing participant, Heather.
that public, I'm suggesting that it say that public trust and integrity are enhanced. And just take some of those extra words out because it just feels very convoluted and wordy in an unnecessary way, because I think that if you're working towards enhanced, then conservation would be a part of that. That's my suggestion for simplification. And then lastly, on bullet number 4, and this is my last thinking on this, is to add at the end, and relationships. Because our role I believe somewhere in here we need to have the word relationships, because that is really the job so much. And I'm not sure it's really needed, but I really want it in here somewhere. So,
Thank you for all of those, Carmen.
that's all.
Thank
Thank you.
And I would like to welcome Heather, who has joined us by teleconference, and Val has had her hand up for a few minutes to speak. So, Val, go ahead.
Okay, so I wouldn't mind having those read back at some point, but I think around the Human Rights Code, is that not something that we already have in the policies that would be already covered? Or is there a specific reason why we would need to add the whole code? And let's see, I like the uphold the spirit of truth and reconciliation, not just reconciliation. Number 3, I kind of like it the way it is right now. It does seem wordy, but it has all of the right words in it, so I kind of like it, but I'll go with the majority decide. And there was another change in 4 that I didn't quite understand from Carmen besides the Human Rights Code one.
This better be something good, right? It's actually in the School Act under section 52(2). If a trustee is continuously absent from board meetings for a period of 3 consecutive months, unless the absence is because of illness or with the leave of the board, the office of the member is deemed to be vacant and the person who held the office is disqualified from holding office as a trustee until the next general school election.
Thank you. So did that answer everybody's questions? Okay. Well, no, thank you. Thank you, Linda. Did anybody else have anything further they would like to offer to these policies? Orra, Valerie? Donna? Vicky?
No, I'm just not clear what's happening with the suggested change.
I'm not sure either.
Okay.
I was waiting to see what was actually going on. Could we maybe have those few changes added, as in grade, like these ones are, for the next meeting, and we can come back and see how they read out, and just see if that feels right for everybody? Thank you. So are we good with that for right now? Okay. Then we will move on to number 6.1. In accordance with the board's work plan, policy 1.40, trustee remuneration is to be reviewed by October 31st of each year. Policy 1.40, trustee communication remuneration was reviewed by policy committee in April 2020 and will be brought forward for the annual review in February 2021. Any discussion around that? Sorry, I'm just having to log in again here. Does everybody understand that? That's why we're moving it forward to 2021? Okay, thank you. Not sure we're going to hear that. Somebody else repeats me. 6.2, 2.120, investments. Policy committee will review policy 2.12, investments, in accordance with policy 1.60, policy development, adoption, review, and deletion. Did anybody have anything they want to discuss around that? No? Okay, that can go forward. I have to keep remembering to look over the ballot. Policy 7.10, Code of Conduct, General. Policy Committee will review 7.10, Code of Conduct, General, in accordance with Policy 1.60, Policy Development, Adoption, Review, and Deletion. Is there a discussion around this one? Carmen?
I just have a little question. And at some point in the past, did this ever say trustees in the top? Every student, staff, parent, and member of the public? And should it? That's my question.
That's a good question. No, it's never been there.
As staff, I don't think we have the answer to that.
Does anybody else feel that trustees should be involved? Or mentioned?
Just wondering if that was because we had our own code of conduct for trustees specifically.
Valerie?
Unmute the phone. I have to unmute the phone. Okay, for this one was meant for was it meant for the staff and the parents and the public, and the hours fall underneath the ones that were just discussed. So we have to put trustee in here, and then do we need to take that out of ours? I'm not quite sure. Specifically,
Also, there might maybe in the future be a time when we'd be grateful to have trustee in here because, you know, it's not very often, but every now and then you do hear of trustee conduct in other districts where this would apply. So I think it would be nice to have trustee in there just so that we look like we're in alignment with our expectations for others. That's my reason.
And I actually agree with you, Carmen, mainly because I expect, even though it's a district and trustees have their own code per se, I think this shows that we are in line with everybody and that we follow the same rules. And Valerie is in agreement with that, and Donna?
Just a comment under the board expects that, number one, it says each student. I'd like to change the each student to each person. Then that way it relates to everybody, not just the students.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Okay, so we can add in, so can we please add in trustees in the top section and or
Just so I'm clear, so we don't have a trustees code of conduct any longer. We've disbanded that and it's now rolled into the roles and responsibilities and oath of office. So that means those pieces though were included in here. For sure.
okay. Sorry, that's a good idea. Donna, if you can.
Going back to the programs that I had, okay, and then going up to the top that we just talked about, the roles and responsibilities, oath of office. Those were the areas that I was looking at in regards to the policies that were brought forward to us at the other meeting that we had and that I took away from there. Not looking at the code of conduct because the way that I read it, it read as if it wasn't inclusive of the board of directors. It was for the schools and staff and students and parents there. That's why I didn't include it, but if we need to include this too, maybe wording or reference to this could help that.
Go ahead. Actually, Teresa, please. I'm sorry, I think I'm lost on one section here because I thought we had a trustee code of conduct. And we're discussing the whole in general one that didn't include trustees right now. So what are you referring to that you didn't include? This one or the trustee code of conduct?
This one.
Okay, but you did include the trustee code of conduct one in when you were melding them all together?
Everything that we had listed with the
Just check.
program policies
Okay.
and stuff,
Okay,
that's what I
took it off from.
put it all together, right? So if it wasn't,
Sorry, if it wasn't included in that layout policy, like it says here, 7.1, if it wasn't included in there, those wordings,
Right.
that was inclusive in that long list, I didn't include it. So if this was not included in that long list, it wasn't included then.
And I can't remember if it was included in that or not, so, in that whole
We have
list.
to clarify what ones were included in the list that she
That-
had.
Yes. Val, go ahead.
Yeah, what this replaces, our trustee one replaces, policy number 1.010, trustee code of ethics, and 1.100, trustee code of conduct. So, I'm not so sure if, there may be something in here that we have to be added to this other one, or should we be taking something out of the other one and putting it in
I think, can we just slow down a bit, because now I'm thoroughly confused. So we started out with code of conduct, roles and responsibilities, and code of ethics. And now we've taken those three things and we have roles and responsibilities and oath of office. Okay, so the first three do not exist anymore. They're gone and they're embedded in here. And we're sure that all of those things from the three are in here.
Well, this is what we're discussing because this is what we're melding together.
Right.
Linda?
So just to confirm that it is in the cover memo, just to attempt to clarify that question as well, that it does state that the oath of office, the new one, replaces the two policies, and the trustee roles and responsibilities replaces the role of the trustee. So you've gone from 3 policies to 2.
Thank you. Now, if I would have heard that full memo, I would have been in there. Okay. So, are we good with, Donna, go ahead.
Just looking at that right now, like Code of Ethics and then Trustees Code of Conduct, the only thing difference between those two is the extra 0 at the end. Was that not one document at one time then?
That was 2 separate
Two
policies.
separate policies? Just one with the extra 0?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Linda.
I know it is sort of the numbering, so it's policy 110 is Trustee Code of Ethics, and policy 100 is Trustee Code of Conduct.
Okay. Valerie?
Yeah, just, I think if all of this is not listed in the oath of office and the role and responsibilities, I think all we need to do then is, because it's written somewhere else and we're adding trustee to it, we can just add it as a link to the bottom like we've done with the other stuff at the bottom of the oath of office and roles and responsibilities. And that way we don't have to redo it again.
But my understanding is that we don't have a trustee code of conduct anymore. We're replacing it with these 2 policies.
Yes, so if we put trustee on this code of conduct that we're looking at now, and then refer to this code of conduct in our oath of office and our trustee roles and responsibilities, then that would cover it. Just like the school act is on the bottom of there, and there's referring to the BCSDA policy as well at the bottom of one of those. There's school act, BCSDA professional learning, and this one is school act. So this the roles and responsibilities replaces number 1.150 role of the trustee. So I don't know that we would have to write anything new if we just link this code of conduct to our 2 policies up above, or oath of office and roles and responsibilities.
I'm not quite sure who was finishing, or whether it was Vicky or Donna. Thank you. Vicky?
I think, as you mentioned before, Nancy, it's going to be rewritten for our next meeting, and I think it would be a lot easier than for us to try to follow all of the dots right now. If we just have the draft as we talked about this time, and then remind us, these 2 will be combining these 3, and then we can decide whether we're okay with that or whether it's missing pieces from the code of conduct or whatever we think. I think that we've done enough changes here. I think if we bring it back, we can continue the conversation. Otherwise, I think the dots to follow are going to become more and more confusing.
I agree completely, because this can come back again to policies. So. Orra?
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with Vicky. I think I need to see it side by side. I need to see where we started, where we're at, so that I can get a visual of what we morphed into one policy or another, or what we have left behind. Because I just can't keep track during the discussion.
Donna?
a simple fix would be that policy 1.100 would be replaced by number 7.10. That would be an easy fix, because then all we're doing to this policy here is just adding trustees into here and a couple minor changes, and that's it.
I personally think we need to wait until we come back and we look at them all. I think everybody needs to kind of go home and really look at all of these and get a fresh view on it. Carmen?
Well, probably because when I was chair, there were quite a few opportunities to utilize those policies, and actually during the development of the Trustee Code of Conduct policy, I think, or Trustee Code of Ethics, one of those two. I mean, it was obvious that it was with 29 bullets or 28 bullets that there was a lot of statements there. I have done the homework on these policies. I've spent quite a few hours going over each policy and making sure that all the work from the past was transferred forward, because that's the opportunity that I have as a trustee that's been here for a little bit longer, is an opportunity to remember the discussion of why number 29 was not unanimous amongst the group and those sorts of things. So what I'm saying is that I do not believe that we as trustees need anything more than what's being developed. I think it is a very, very good work that we have done so far between Donna and the staff, combining the thinking and trying to make it concise, because obviously it wasn't concise before, and I think that is what was needed. But when I read the Code of Conduct for the district, regardless whether we have done the work and have included the thinking, these are much more specific statements than what we have in our other two policies that hopefully will go forward. And they're more specific because from time to time, you need that statement. And that's a useful tool. And I can remember times when, unfortunately, these statements would have been useful. So what I believe, it wouldn't change our work. It wouldn't give us an opportunity that maybe we should go back and have our own code of conduct. But I think that it would look very congenial, fearless, accountable to have trustee in this. I really do. And I don't think that it needs to change any of our work going forward. It would be possible to have a little bullet at the bottom, like that a reference to it. But I think it'd be really good, because it just looks like trustee is at the same standard as everyone else. We're part of the team. We're on the team. We're in the schools from time to time. We're in public. We're at meetings. What if there's an incident? We do deserve restoration as a trustee. You know, what if there's an incident from a trustee to someone, like a parent in a school? It's happened. You know, or a principal. That gives us such clarity, accountability, and it's easy to do. Just add the word trustee and poof, you're done. And it doesn't really need to overwhelm the workload, because we're still moving forward with our other work. That's what I believe would be easy to do.
Thank you. And Orra, and we're just getting a little hear from Orra quick. And just on a quick note, if Donna and Carmen, if you can, when you're speaking, if you can speak up a little bit, Valerie's having a hard time hearing you. Okay. Thank you. Orra, go ahead.
So I feel like we're having two different conversations. I agree with Carmen that adding trustee to the Code of Conduct general policy is quite doable and seems to make sense to do that. So why don't we do that? But the other conversation about the more numerous changes around the other policies, I think is a different conversation. I'd like to wait on that until we've had a chance to look at it again. But adding our name here as trustees, I think is fine.
For the people that are joining us by teleconferencing, could you please put your phone on mute? Thank you. Please put your phone on mute if you are joining us by teleconference. Thank you. We can still hear you. Excuse me, but who's ever joining us, Heather, on teleconference, if you could please put your phone on mute.
Yeah, so the next time we could do it.
Okay, guess not. So we will continue and we will just try to speak up a little higher.
Someone has joined us through teleconference. Can you phone, please?
Thank you. Okay, so do we want this to come back to next meeting? The code of conduct, I have no problem putting trustee in there, but what do we want to see coming back?
I think we all agree trustee is
Okay.
good.
Okay, sounds good. And number, oops. And 6.4, policy 7.20, safe, caring, and orderly schools. Policy committee will review this policy 7.20, safe, caring, and orderly schools in accordance with the policy 1.60, policy development, adoption, and deletion. Does anybody have anything they would like to add here? No? Valerie? No? Okay, thank you. So this one can go to open. And that is the end of our policy meeting. Meeting is adjourned.
Of Ashcroft Council for the final day of September 2020. I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson, thank you.
You have a supplemental in front of you with some language and additions. Sorry.
Yeah.
The one in front of you is the supplemental agenda. There's
Oh, supplemental agenda.
yeah, there's two
Okay.
extra items. Yeah, there's an expanded patio permission from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulations Board. That
Okay.
is time sensitive, and report from Councillor Anderson.
All right. Do we have the original agenda?
It's actually attached to the original. I just put it in as late item, so the original agenda is
Below
there as well, but not printed.
Okay, gotcha. All right, to adopt the agenda as amended. So Councillor Anderson again, thank you. Any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. And we have the question period at the end, and with council's pleasure, I would like to move it to the beginning to give anyone in the gallery an opportunity to address council before the meeting as opposed to after. This is using the former template for the special meetings, which we have not used since we changed the question period to the beginning of the meeting. There we go. So everyone's all right? So we will go into question period. Are there any questions from the gallery or from the press? No? No, seeing none then. We have no delegations. So, oh, I'm sorry, the only agenda I have here is the addition. I don't have the original one. No, that's the same one.
Oh, you don't agree.
It is. And late items to here, and then the regular.
Oh, okay, sorry, there we go. It's okay, migraine kicking in. All right, so item 5.1, expanded patio permission. What is council's pleasure on this item?
Well, do I need to recuse myself because of this?
Yes.
Yes, I will recuse myself.
And Councillor Tui, do you have a patio?
I just use the sidewalk. Does that count?
She doesn't have a
No,
liquor
she doesn't have a
license.
liquor license.
Okay.
And I don't have liquor license, no.
Okay.
I don't need it. I've got the lead.
And the door's right there.
Yeah.
All right, what is council's pleasure on this item? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. I'd like to move that we go with the staff recommendation. The council support the liquor and cannabis regulation branch's extension of the temporary expanded service area licenses to October 31st, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anstead, any discussion on this item? No? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. Just that we're lucky we live where we do and we can still have things outside. I personally just ordered a couple of heaters so that I can still have people sit outside, yeah.
Well, it's a very generous, I don't know if that's quite the right word, extension, which makes it much easier. Although I do understand that heaters, people who make those propane heaters are having a huge run and lots of back orders. So obviously lots of people have the same idea, but hopefully we continue with the Indian summer.
Yep.
All right. See no further discussion on the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.2, Councillor Anderson has a report received for information. Councillor Anderson, did you want to expand on anything in your report?
I think it's pretty clear. I thought it was some of the stuff coming out of UBCM was good. I've noted it in there, and yeah, no, I think I'm pretty thorough.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, I think, hearing the feedback from UBCM, because in the comments down the side, I was seeing a lot of comments from people saying they could not access it at home. They had to go to their office or to their village office in order to get the computer access, because otherwise, I mean, I had one where I kept buffering.
Yeah, me too.
And it was frustrating, but they will all be up on, if they're not, I think today was the day they were going up on the UBCM website,
Okay.
so they're will be there for a period of 3 months if you miss them, so.
Yeah, I wanted to watch the one, Dr. Henry, that was the one that I was having trouble with.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
having a lot of trouble
Yeah.
with that. It would get 10 seconds of conversation and then it would just endlessly
Yeah.
buffer.
I had a lot of difficulty getting on, and in the end, after talking with the helpline, because they were working with me for the longest time, I had to go to my personal computer because of a firewall for something they figured in.
Oh, yeah, and I was just using my personal.
And they said it was that they were having those issues across the province, so it wasn't just me, but I don't know why just me here.
But I found it ironic that one of the ones that I had trouble getting was one about the need for increased connectivity in this digital world.
Yeah.
I was having trouble watching the presentation. I thought, well, they just proved their point in the first sort of 2 minutes of the talk, so.
But it was at first, so
Yes.
there's always glitches with the first.
I thought the voting, once you got into the voting, you did your first one and remembered to scroll down to hit confirm. I thought the voting system was very, very
That
good.
worked well, I thought, yeah.
Very impressive, so I think they did it. And of course, they were thrown a wrinkle at the last second by having the election called the day before, which I was very impressed to see that within 12 hours, they had a panel for the Tuesday morning or the Tuesday afternoon, the election, what does this mean, basically, out of nowhere. So that was very impressive. All right, bylaws for discussion, we have none. We move on to staff reports. 7.1, government street development. What is council's pleasure on item 7.1?
Sorry, I just have to find it on here.
Councillor Anderson.
So I would like to go with the staff recommendation that council appoint a member. I'm
No,
gonna
no.
write government.
This is about the government street development?
Yeah.
So no, keep going back one more,
Oh,
the other way.
oh,
There
okay.
you go, where your options.
Oh, there
Your
we are,
options.
perfect. Oh, right, yes. Okay. So, let me just make sure I picked the right one, because I did think about this a lot, and it was a difficult, I found it a little bit difficult to decide. So that council resolve to undertake and complete the storm runoff calculations if funding is secured and any proportionate costs not covered by grant funding be charged back to the developer.
All right, so recommendation one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Tui, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Councillor
Yeah, I
Anderson?
just wanted to say that like I said earlier, it was a difficult decision, but, and I understand, the developer's perspective on needing to have numbers and figures and that whatnot, and the difficulty around it, and, the responsibility of having to pay toward this study. However, after looking at the calculations, I feel that it is more than fair. $800 roughly per housing unit is not a lot in the perspective of the overall costs. So, and also as a village too, to take the full responsibility of a study that costs that much, that's coming out of our taxpayers. And so I didn't think that was fair either.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's important to make the distinction between the runoff study and the calculation, which have sort of been conflated into one big mass. The calculation is separate from the storm drain study in North Ashcroft. And I think it's worth pointing out that because the calculations are now being done in tandem in conjunction with the storm drain study for North Ashcroft, because that storm drain study is not something that the village is doing because we want to undertake it, that will further reduce the costs of the calculation for developers.
Yeah.
So the $800 or the $1.08 per square meter is the absolute worst case scenario. That's with no grant funding, and that does not take into account the portion of the study that will be for the storm drains in North Ashcroft. So, I mean, I know that in my head, the two of them are interlocked, yeah, but that's why I'm not an engineer.
Your worship.
CFO Bella.
So I followed up with all the grant announcements and and spoke to the province. On the ground, it doesn't mean anything more other than announce, and they're formulating programs now. So we'll see what comes out. We already have grants under every stream, pretty much, so they won't let us get a second grant. They won't say, no, you can't apply, but basically, we've been indirectly told we need to work to finish what we have, and then we have opportunity to apply.
Okay. Any more comments or discussion on this question?
I do have a question. So based on what you just said, does that hold up the development?
No, we will proceed with the study.
Yes.
And we'll see what, we're just going to, so let me pull back. We'll just charge the prorated cost as we've come up with, and then we'll look at the study and grant in due course.
Okay.
Right? I would like to have a grant, but basically the instruction is that we finish our lift station, we finish
That
our,
takes some time.
all those things which we already have gotten grants for. So.
Councillor Davenport.
And what's the time frame for that, for finishing off those things?
They're all in progress. Some of them are bigger projects.
Mm-hmm.
So lift station another, year and a half. But as the hot tub might not be another year, might be sooner. Curling, all of them
Right.
so as each opens up, maybe more opportunities will open up. Plus now we have a government change and lots of announcements, and
Right.
I'm hoping for other funding too.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye out. I'm hopeful there'll be some funding for planning and drainage and, and under the environmental mitigation umbrella.
Right.
So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Tui.
Yeah, I just want to comment, I hope that, just because we've come up with this $898 or whatever it is per lot, that doesn't discourage the development. That they understand that we are working at it, and, just talking to the general people out there, most of them, they say, no, I don't want to pay for someone else's development. So I don't think it's a lot, and I don't think there'll be any difficulty in selling anything that's developed there with that, even with that added cost on, and knowing that, you know, we're trying our best and that most likely it won't be that much, so.
Well, I think it's more important than ever. We've seen the uncertain weather patterns, climate change, obviously. We've seen weather events that we have not seen before, and these show no sign of going away. They show every sign of being with us for the long term and increasing in intensity. So it behooves us as a government to make sure we're doing everything we can to safeguard not only the residents physically, but the residents financially, to ensure that we are doing our due diligence and making it safe for everyone. All right. Seeing no further discussion on the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 7.2, Bylaw Enforcement Officer. Do I have a recommendation here? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Voten. I would like to move that we go with the recommendation the council appoint a member to sit on the joint bylaw enforcement working group to explore the possibilities of sharing a bylaw enforcement officer position with the communities of Cache Creek and Clinton.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Davenport. Any discussion on this item? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Voten. Have we talked to either of the communities yet?
See
Okay.
Yes, Your Worship, we have. I met on the 24th with CAO Daly and Martin Delson from Cache Creek. And we had a general meeting, which is kind of, it appears that all communities are on board, and we're just looking to explore what our options are. I did some digging into EMBC funding for bylaw enforcement officers as well, so that is open. We are eligible for that funding, but only for COVID-19 related bylaw infractions or bylaw education, things like that. So whatever hours that bylaw officer would be spending doing COVID-19 public education pieces or checking the arena to make sure for compliance, those we are able to bill back to EMBC. Everything else would be budgeted out of our regular budget. But it appears that everyone's really quite willing to move forward. COVID-19 has certainly raised a lot of bylaw issues. People are home, they're seeing, things are bothering them more, so we're getting a lot of complaints, and it does put a buffer between the enforcement and administration, because generally once an infraction has been cited, the appeal process generally goes to the administration, but if administration is issuing the infraction, that appeal process is really isn't served very well to the public. So.
Great, thank you. Councillor Davenport.
We may have covered this before. Is there a formal education degree that a bylaw officer needs to have?
There are courses through the JIB that are available, and that was something that we discussed as well. It's really going to be dependent on what the working group recommendations to council are and what the three councils choose to move forward with. There's two types of ticketing information that we can use. We can use the municipal ticketing information, or we can use in a bylaw adjudication process. And then we need to decide whether that bylaw officer becomes a staff person, and they're on board that way, or whether they're a contracted position. So those recommendations will come forward, and education will be a piece that's put into there. We feel that if it's a staff, just in conversation, that if it were to be a staff position that has, uniforms and vehicles, supply, those kinds of things, we'll more than likely get more qualified individuals as opposed to the contractor. But again, that'll be something that'll come out of the working group's decision process.
Is there anything readily available from the last time that the three communities went together on this? I believe it was Jamie Neighbor, who was the bylaw officer for all three communities. This is going back 9 or 10 years.
2013.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, 7 years.
So I haven't found anything yet, but I'm continuing my search.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on this? So, anyone, hands up, who would like to be, okay, Councillor Anderson is volunteering to be on the committee. Is anyone else interested in being on the committee? I think possibly we should appoint an alternate just in case Councillor Anderson is unable to make a meeting, in which case Councillor Davenport. All right. No one else is shoving their hand up there, so. All right, so Councillor Anderson will be the appointee and Councillor Davenport will be the alternate. Excellent. So that is the motion. There's no further discussion on the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So I move that we take this into closed session under Community Charter Section 90.1. Councillor Davenport seconds that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank
Do we
you.
have to have our question period?
We had it at the beginning.
Oh, we did it, move it to the beginning, sorry.
Yeah.